So this is the Borongook Drysdale Library, completed last year for the City of Greater Geelong. You'll see the roof is still growing, so it's a work in progress in that respect. I'm going to introduce this team of three. I'm Graham Christ, the other two directors working on the project, Nicola Garrett and Danielle Peck. We'll begin talking about the collaborative process. This is two small officers working together who met each other, not for the first time, but met each other on site for the briefing and decided to collaborate and work through the entire process together. And it was kind of indicative of the rest of the project. City of Greater Geelong were a really excellent collaborative partner, working through the process with the community, right through to the construction process. And Karina Eccles, you can see there, was a really good partner in relation to dialogues with the Wadawurrung community. It's useful to start, we think of this project as a piece of urban repair. It's a really key project in a fairly small town, Drysdale on the Bellarine Peninsula, and really neglected piece of open space, and the sort of a piece of urban fabric that had been kind of wrecked by Woolworths when it backed onto the main high street. We'll talk through that a little bit. There it is in the Drysdale, right in the middle of the Bellarine Peninsula. You can see the bay behind it and Melbourne beyond there if it was a clearer day. It's a really crucial sort of knuckle in the middle of the peninsula, a junction really off to a series of other towns, and a really important piece of open space in front of it. So the task of the building, really even before we got to it, was to try and reconstruct it and address onto that open space and onto the high street more broadly, which is, not insubstantial. You can see it from above here, and you can see the context as we look under the high street. There's some really quite lovely, fairly modest old 19th century buildings. There's a pub, there's an old bank, there's a little old courthouse, and a really marvellous Uniting Church. And so the building was in some ways upscaling the town, but also really trying to participate in that dialogue with those buildings. And then with a really interesting landscape. And you can see that axis running down to the coast at the top of the image. So this is what was here. The real problems with the levels of the site, which were set by Woolworths kind of backing into a hill on the top of the high street and turning its back entirely on that. So there was this sort of terrible little space which was full of discarded shopping trolleys and so on. So the reconstruction of the levels in relation to the high street, but also into the terrain behind it, was a really crucial part of what we did. You can see it here from above, so you can see that courtyard in the library, but the formation of the amphitheatre in front of it was really to do with reconciling the levels between the high street in the front and Wyndham Street behind, which you can see at the bottom of that image. Therefore, the building has two entry levels, really two ground levels, one from across a bridge from that space into the upper level, and then a second which connects very closely into the shopping centre. We tried some really different site planning strategies as part of the process, but this was really what worked to kind of reconstruct a corner of the site. You can see where it's cut away by the shopping centre, but also to act as a theatre and around as a sort of central point of that open space and make new connections to the streets beyond. You can see there in this context. So that obviously the big metal roof is Woolworths and the shopping centre, but new connections through to street to the north and Wyndham Street to the south here, and an arcing kind of path across the space was made through there. That's a view from Wyndham Street. You can see up towards the sort of the gently rising terrain towards the front. There's the bridge entry. I'm going way over time according to my partners. This is the laneway that's created between the library and the new building, some of the 19th century buildings which we're trying to reconcile ourselves with, and also this landscape, which is both a hill and a kind of watering place traditionally from the Wadawurrung community.
Okay, I'll try and keep my brief. So the building aims to be generous towards its town and its community. It aims to exceed the expectations of the brief, the budget, its context. It recognises this may be the most important civic artefact constructed in the lifetime of many locals in this regional community. The project was designed through dialogue with the site, with the community, with Indigenous narratives, and through careful listening. The lower ground level's geometry negotiates a curvilinear drum above and the adjoining shopping centre. There's a perimeter of benches that face out towards the amphitheatre, and the arc of the plan describes that path between the two streets to the north and west. It's a compressed space on the ground level with a softness that counters the highly adaptable and robust children's zones. The courtyard above is visible in the acoustically treated conical ceiling, and both acoustically and aesthetically the space accepts noise and mess. There's a bookable seminar space near the lower entry and a separate craft area just beyond, with most of the open space reserved for children's collection. The upper floor is approached from the east from a ramped bridge, and the low entry foyer opens into a lofty reading room. The main collections are arrayed around the courtyard, and there's a study desk around the perimeter and 2 small meeting pods. The back of house areas are tucked behind the drum and run along that southern boundary against the shopping centre. From reception, you can orient yourself around the central courtyard garden, as well as looking out to the park and the town beyond. The Drysdale pub and the courthouse can just be seen in the distance through this view. Sunlight moves around the courtyard throughout the day. The circular plan encourages pockets of activity, differing light and intensity levels. And then there's a single Bellarine eucalypt in the centre of the courtyard, which we anticipate to grow up into the open funnel, and this will provide shade to the outdoor reading room. And we can see this played out again in the section.
Materials were chosen to reinforce the conceptual narrative, telling stories of place and culture. A vast water territory that connects, dissects and feeds through the Bellarine is emphasised further in the detail of the building. Datum, reflection, depth, shallow, flat, undulating, wet, dry, all cues that set up our material thinking. Rising from a murky, watery, glistening underbelly to a dry, clay-like surface. Both inferences of 19th century ornamentation and of natural sedimentary layers influence the design. Held together in the gnarly skin, a collection of bricks handmade glazed from Stawell, Euroa, machine glazed and recycled broken clinkers. Every brick was documented, courses assigned, datums, colour-coded, mixes created that encourage the bricklayer autonomy to demonstrate his craft within a set of guidelines. A mirror finish reflective stainless steel soffit runs to the edge of the lower level plaza, capturing the parkland reflections and carrying natural light into the ground floor children's spaces. Tonal and textual palettes are continued in the interior. Lower ground aqueous and compressed concrete surfaces dampened by acoustic felts, upper ground warm tones and timber textures. Exposed off-form concrete could mimic rock shelves, perhaps. Smooth plaster and translucent curtains upstairs create a sense of serene. Phytogreen's evocative and precise roof planting shop drawing shows the distribution of various native and endemic species. To achieve the roof steepness, a nutrient-rich shallow soil profile is laid, roof gutters are given over to drainage cell, and plants have been encouraged to hang over the edge. This can be seen here in the courtyard. During dusk, the top row of Euroa bricks disappears into the sky, softening the civic structure back into its context.